Out of Order Gun Rights Podcast, Episode 66.
Welcome to the Out of Order Podcast, your window into the firearms community, exploring those shaping the future of our rights and protecting our lifestyle, laws, legal cases, activism, and self-defense in a candid and honest podcast for our brothers and sisters in arms. Here's your host, James Kalita.
Thank you for tuning in to episode 66 of the Out of Order Gun Rights Podcast. Today's sponsor is sellmorefirearms.com. Sellmorefirearms.com is a free guide for gun stores, FFLs, to sell more firearms using Facebook. Facebook's probably the last place most FFLs and gun stores think about when they are trying to sell firearms. But I've put together a free 10-step guide that will help you get more exposure and be seen by more of your customers. So head over to sellmorefirearms.com, enter your email, and we'll send you the free guide. Now today's guest is Paul Phillips from Oregon Gun Owners, and now here's Paul.
Paul Phillips, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. Always good to talk guns.
Yep. So Paul, you are the president of Oregon Gun Owners. Would you tell us a little about that organization?
Oregon Gun Owners is the oldest gun advocacy group in Oregon. We boast a very solid membership, and we've been active in virtually every legislative session since the 70s.
Wow. And so what was the genesis of the organization? What inspired it to begin?
Well, John and Dot Nichols started it many, many decades ago because he was a gun collector and trader and felt that the community needed Oregon-specific representation. So that's how it actually got started. It's morphed now. We have a board of directors, 4 individuals, myself, a former FBI person, a former Portland police officer, and a current county commissioner and former law enforcement officer himself. And we, as a group, try and be a responsible advocate for gun owners' rights.
Excellent. And so I guess a lot of people would look at Oregon and say, you guys have really, favorable gun laws, and that maybe a group like yours wouldn't be necessary. Do you find that there's a lot of anti-gun pressure state-specific, or I'll let you answer.
Well, Oregon is a liberal state in its politics generally, but that's because of the Portland metropolitan area. If you get out of the Tri-County area, we actually are a fairly rural, conservative state. But the problem is the population lives in the Tri-County area. And virtually every session, go back to 2015, 2017, 2018, but even before then, there's advocates that want to change something. They claim that there's a loophole here or a problem with that. If you go back, the first thing that they really focused on was gun shows, and the terrible, egregious things were happening, even though they could not prove that not one crime, stemmed from a sale at a gun show. And if you look at going back 25 years, you will see that we really have no evidence that there's been all these gun debates and everything else and changing in gun laws that it has addressed the crime rate at all. So, it's turned into a political issue. And the funny thing about it is, like most urban areas, the illegal gun activities, the shootings every night, the gang activities are in Portland, where these liberals live, where they want to change all the laws that affect all of us kind of old fat guys that own guns. That would be a shot at myself.
Great. So you've kept a lot of these laws at bay. What's the secret to your success? How do you keep these things from being passed?
Well, you can go forth and fight and yell and have rallies and take your guns to the Capitol and do things like that and watch the bills get passed. or you can sit down with the head of the Judiciary Committee. You can go to your enemies and say, what is it that you want to accomplish, and why do you want to do it? And then you can juxtapose that and say, okay, you want to save people's lives. Why don't you deal with alcohol and drugs and smoking and car deaths and things like that, and make them defend their position? We haven't stopped any or all the laws that have come through. Other legislators that have been in office certainly have, by slowing the process down. I mean, I'm sure there's a group of legislators that would ban all gun ownership if they could get away with it, but they just haven't been able to get away with it.
Now, you are bordered by California, which is very anti-gun. Do you find people fleeing California and coming to Oregon has either a positive or negative effect on your efforts to keep gun rights in Oregon?
Oregon's population has changed. I've lived here since 1969. By the way, I was born in California. I'm a fifth-generation Californian. So I would bet that the vast majority of those moving to the state are actually from California or other populous states. The whole economy has changed from a rural agricultural to a city-based population, and it has changed people's attitudes.
So what advice would you have for advocates throughout the country that are trying to preserve their rights? Maybe they're just waking up to the idea that their rights are not as secure as they thought they were. What would you say to them?
Well, they better wake up real quick. Their rights are not secure. Democracy is based on majority rule, and once this becomes a political issue and they try and present it that the majority doesn't like guns or this is the way to go to ban them, and in fact we have big high-profile incidents, they will lose their rights. If they want to hunt or collect or just own, those rights are in jeopardy, and they should stand up and be heard. But I would also caution them, being as radical as the left side is and all their ban and take away the guns, doesn't do us any good either. It makes us look as stupid as they look. And we should facts are on our side. Use the damn facts.
And I always ask my guests if there are any books they recommend that all gun owners should read. Any come to mind?
Well, I don't know about the context of any gun owners, but I like 13 Hours in Benghazi. And I would say gun owners may too. And the reason I say that is because it really does talk about liberty and life and how important government decisions are and how they can kill people if people procrastinate or make bad policy decisions on foreign politics. So I would suggest people read that. It's a good, quick read.
All right. And how can people help you guys?
Membership, obviously. We have a website, Oregon Gun Owners, signing up on the Facebook pages, things of that nature, donate money, any number of ways that they wish to participate or just get information. And we put out our gun facts materials trying to get people, if they just go to ogo.org, that would be a help. And if they're so motivated, we'd like to communicate with them and build our ranks. We need numbers too.
And how is it in such a pro-gun state? Do you find it challenging to get citizens of Oregon to participate, or are they generally anxious to help?
You're assuming this is a pro-gun state. I would disavow you of that. The reason being is I think the legislative politics and the voting blocs from the urbanized areas would vote against guns if they were on the ballot today. The religious community, more left of center religious community in this case, has teamed up with the former mayor of New York City and others and talking about safety and saving lives. It's bogus the way they go about throwing money around, using it for a political issue. But we're under attack here, just like we are under attack all over the country. When I grew up, hunting was a way of life. You used to, every fall, there would be caravans of people going out in the fields. That's really not the way it is right now. So the normal advocates, that was the gun guy that hunted, there's fewer and fewer of us because of demographic changes and aging populations. So if we really want to talk about gun rights and gun safety, we need to reach out to people that are 18, 20, 21, the younger millennial types, and really talk to them. It is unfortunate that most people have not read our Constitution, let alone do they not understand the Constitution. And it's often used against us. So the more we can educate and share with people why and how important it is to stand for the Constitution and actually believe in it and practically apply the laws to fulfilling it, that'd be the best thing we can do. But I got to tell you, there are no lacking for challenges here in this state.
So other than the cities, what kind of challenges are you guys facing out there?
Well, we've had the Charleston loophole. We've had the background checks. We've had boyfriend loopholes, red flag laws, reforming some of the self-defense issues. We've had assault weapons. We've had issues about bump stocks. Anything that has come up nationally has played out here, too. And then we've had retailer discrimination, where one retailer doesn't want to sell guns if you're under 21, where others do. And so there's no lacking for issues out here.
All right. Yeah, and that's glad you shared that, because coming from New Jersey and growing up in the New Jersey, New York area, I always sort of looked at the West Coast, excluding California, as a sort of a safe haven for gun owners. But you're saying you have a lot of the same issues that we have here.
I have exactly the same issues. Oregon, Washington, and California have turned into, on the coast, not in the if you go inland at all, but on the coast, are very liberal pockets.
Great. Well, I thank you very much for coming on the show. Any parting words for our listeners?
No, if people would like to get on ogo.org, send us a note, follow what's going on. Anyway, if they're in Oregon, I'm not sure how many listeners or participants you have from the West here, but any of those we'd be glad to communicate with and keep them informed so they can help us fight the good war.
Excellent. Well, I thank you very much for coming on the show, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thanks again for tuning in to episode 66 of the Out of Order Gun Rights Podcast. Show notes page for today's show is outoforderjameskalita.com/66. And please remember to check out sellmorefirearms.com. And if you have a gun store, friend who owns a gun store, let them know about the free guide they can get there, helping them sell more on social media. This is Out of Order James Kalita. We'll see you next time.